Hey everyone, thanks for joining. My name is Maciej Szpakowski and I'm one of the co-founders and CTO of Prophecy. And today I'm joined by Shehzad, who's the CTO of Waterfall Asset Management. We are going to walk you through how Waterfall has been using Prophecy, our data, AI, prep, and analysis product, specialized by Claude Code, to accelerate investment decisions for structured finance workflows. Shehzad, I'd love to start by having you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Waterfall.
Hello, everybody. Thanks, Maciej. I am the CTO here at Waterfall. I joined Waterfall about 5 years ago, just 4.5 years ago from Goldman Sachs. Waterfall is an alternative asset manager, primarily focused on structured credit, asset-backed finance, and related securities and investments, specifically in private space. So we have portfolios within commercial real estate, whole loans, and as I mentioned, asset-backed finance. We invest in around 60 plus sectors. So this is a bit of Waterfall. We will obviously, Maciej is going to work with us to present some of the materials here.
Cool. Thank you so much, Shehzad. Yeah, I'm sure everyone is already familiar, especially in this crowd, about Waterfall, but I appreciate that introduction. A quick word on Prophecy. As I mentioned, we're an AI data prep and analysis platform powered by Claude Code. I think what's really most important here is that I hope everyone's going to feel here right at home when being here with us and listening to this, because our customers are just like all of you. They range from, small teams to actually the largest of the financial enterprises in the world. So JP Morgan, HSBC, and others are some of our customers trying to solve those data problems. A bit about myself. Before Prophecy, I built an AI startup in actually clinical research, working with major pharma on their data workflows as well. The common thread between both Prophecy and the previous venture was kind of twofold. One is AI is most useful really when specialized to a domain that it operates in. And two, it requires really high quality data. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So handing back to Shehzad, I would love if it's possible for you to tell us a little bit about the problem that you were solving in Waterfall and what tape cracking is all about and how it looks like in practice.
Right. So let me set some context. A lot of work within the investment process in the private space is around data. The data that is used to make key investment decisions, manage risk, and portfolio is usually not publicly available. It is data that is available to parties which are involved in the investment process. So one of the biggest issues that we face within the alternative space is you can't buy off-the-shelf products like Bloomberg or other platforms which are out there. So when I joined Waterfall, one of the things that shocked me was the term tape. Tape, I thought, was something that I studied in the history books in computer science when what the old mainframe tape was. But tape cracking is a very well-known industry term within the alternative space where the data is provided in the form of various files, which are specific to every institution which gives that data. And those files are referred to as tape. The idea of cracking a tape was that if you are evaluating a deal, which is time sensitive, sometimes you need to price assets and deals within hours. And that requires you to look at the data, which could be fairly complex. And it could have hundreds of columns, thousands of rows. And to understand that data, which could vary from one deal to another, is very important part of the investment process and is actually the first step. Historically, the way it worked at Waterfall was you have dedicated people whose job is to track these tapes. They will take their best guess based on their prior experience on how to format the output in such a way which could be fed into the rest of the investment process, whether that's a portfolio manager or some other analyst who's looking at the data from a desk and investment perspective. So while this is something that has become an art for those people who have been living and breathing this over many years, we faced problems which are very modern in the sense that the data was not available to the rest of the platform. The tooling that is used is old school, where the data is produced in Excel files or CSV files. It's not integrated in your broader data platform. We use Databricks in and out. So it was always offline. So as a result, we could not use the data in such a way. And one of the biggest issues we faced was that these individuals who are very well versed in these sectors and cracking tapes, they could become bottleneck. So sometimes you might have to look at multiple deals at the same time. And now which one to prioritize. So obviously, this is something that is a process that we wanted to address and streamline. And that's where we have been using Prophecy historically for a broader ETL engagement and onboarding of data, because it has proved the open source model has been very positive for us over the last few years. So that is a problem space that we explained to the team at Prophecy, and they obviously partnered with us to come up with a solution. Actually, can we go to the next slide?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So people might say, "Oh, why not use AI out of the box?" So one of the things that we attempted and is to throw these tapes to various OpenAI models and chatbots. And while it would do 80 to 90% of the job, it would never really do a good job. It will not understand the meaning of the data. It will not learn. Any learning and memory was very local to that individual, which means that you can't really associate that data with the rest of the data pipeline that Waterfall has. We have a lot of knowledge and data that we have gathered over thousands of tapes we have cracked, as we call it, over the last so many years. And that knowledge in each subsector was not something that AI knows about, and that is not something that they will ever know, because these data points are not in public domain, not yet anyway. So we ran into some of these problems where trying to self-serve this data using AI tooling meant that sometimes it will not be able to read Excel files because those files could be formatted in such a way. Headers were different. It will start basically guesstimating some of the values. As I said, the prompts are always in silos. And obviously, and sometimes you have to iterate through these tapes many times because you're going back to the counterparties, getting the new updated values. And in the next iteration, the format might be different. So suddenly your entire chat history just for that tape is lost. So we needed a scalable solution where we are also using AI on broader data within Waterfall. So this is where Prophecy team came in and helped us out with the solution.
Awesome. So Shehzad, what you're describing is this gap between kind of Claude as a standard model and Claude as a production grade workflow, really, that can solve challenges inside the data platform. So let me show you a little bit of what we built. So it all starts with that tape cracking, as Shehzad was mentioning. This is the first step. Before that, nothing in the structured finance workflow can really happen. Different issuers will bring in those different loans in different formats, column names, units, conventions, all of that stuff will vary between each other. And we need to map it to a clean data layout. From the user's perspective, the flow that we're trying to offer is very simple. Come in, upload your messy tape, AI generates a mapping, and that mapping will contain confidence levels and reasoning, and the user can go in and validate it. But making it a little bit more concrete, each mapping will actually come with different levels of confidence, from high to low. High will mean that AI is completely confident. The user can verify, but should not have to. And low means AI didn't have enough context, and so the user definitely has to look at that. Critically, this whole confidence level concept is computed completely deterministically. So it's not AI is coming in and hallucinating something around already hallucinated expression. Each mapping also comes with a reasoning, right? An explanation. So like here, for instance, we can see total spend is computed via a certain expression, or a FICO was computed via a different expression. So the user isn't accepting an AI output blindly. They can review the work with all the context available to them. And most critically, the system keeps learning, right? So and we're going to show some of that in the results, but from the first tape, the system probably doesn't know that much about your data layout, about your context. So it's not going to do as well. But by a couple of tapes, the system should now understand how you want to build your data mappings, and corrections are just fed back as input essentially into AI. Once we do that tape cracking itself, what happens next, right? As we said, that's the foundational step. We need really clean data before anything else can happen. And this is where the user can go in and start asking additional questions, producing strats, ad hoc analysis. As an example, if I want to go in and do a specific FICO distribution, an AI will present to me a chart, summary, and all of that is going to be backed by this high quality data set that we've just created. The validation is really important because at the end of the day, the team is going to be making decisions that are, potentially impacting millions of dollars of have value, right? So we need to make sure that the numbers are correct. And this is where AI can go in and show us exactly how this was computed, not by presenting you thousands of lines of code, but higher level visual abstraction that's succinct to understand. So the system will surface only the part of the workflow relevant to us. And finally, we've cracked the tape, done the analysis. What happens next? Well, if we've now purchased the asset and we keep getting updates on weekly, monthly, whatever yearly basis, this stuff is not point in time anymore, right? Now we need to take those workflows and actually productionize them. And for the most part, it's just gonna work because the tapes are probably not gonna change that much every single month. But what if they do? What if the columns get renamed or units shift or new fields appear? Well, the worst outcome that could happen is finding out late after the decision has been made on potentially wrong data. So this is where you need to have high quality data quality checks, data validation checks created, and then you can use AI whenever a notification is issued to very quickly fix and address those potential challenges in production. And this is really where we can, or AI moves this from like a one-off productivity tool to now an ongoing operations infrastructure backed by really high quality data. So let's zoom out for a second. The structured finance lifecycle has multiple stakeholders. Shehzad has talked about that and articulated it really well. And we want to make sure that no one is blocking anyone from doing their job, right? They all should be enabling each other and building on top of themselves. But the reality is that, yeah, unless you crack the tape, the investor probably can't do anything else. If you need to perform some more complex strats or pool selection, again, the data analyst would have to be involved for a deeper analysis. And a lot of different tools are involved in this whole job, right? And there is a lot of handoffs as well. And unfortunately, for some of you, they still happen in Excel or email. So what's the shift that we're trying to create? Well, we want all the stakeholders to be working in the same place on a single source of truth, and then iterating with AI on that single source of truth in real time. You crack your tape in a couple of minutes, then you can perform your pool selection or collateral analysis by just talking to the system directly. And then you can have that final documentation created as well, the prospectus, memorandum, etc., generated in that same workflow, cross-validated with the actual raw data itself, which now serves as the kind of ground truth. And the agent sits in the middle of all of that, of course, right? So it's going to be using the skills, the knowledge graph, the context that's now developed within your organization to produce high quality results with the data being that foundation. What are the results that we've seen so far? So we've done many different benchmarks of the system. In AI, you really need to care about very good evaluation. That's only how you can determine value on the other side. And so here is some results of the benchmark that we done on open public tapes. Probably the results would be even more interesting on private tapes. But on public tapes, what we've seen is that from the very first tape, the system achieves certain performance, right? It's not amazing. It's 60, 70%. But the reality is that the user has to review everything, right? And so that's where you don't get any unlock. On the first tape, you want to go through column, but just be very diligent about reviewing the results. But by tape 5, the system now has seen 4 tapes worth of corrections from the user, from potentially different issuers as well. This is very important to mention. Those tapes are not from a single issuer, they're from different issuers, right? So they're completely different tapes. This is not like a small monthly update. And this is where the confidence rate now can start hitting 95%, and the analyst only had to do a very small amount of work, right? Just reviewing 4 mappings that the AI wasn't confident about. So the headline here really is that after 5 of those tapes, now you're getting a tremendous amount of reduction of manual work that now anyone can do. And it's not necessarily even requiring you to understand, kind of the under the hood workings of AI, because it's a simple kind of review process of the mappings themselves. But Shehzad, I would love to hear from you. What results have you guys seen so far? What do you think are the future opportunities as well for what we've done, but also AI more broadly in structured finance?
Yeah, thanks, Maciej. I think the one thing I want to highlight is that the linear process that existed before meant that there was too much back and forth between the decision maker versus the data provider, right? So in this case, data analyst is anticipating what questions have been asked in the past and provide the information whenever the new tape comes in. But if, let's say, the pool information, if each data, each loan, each bid is different, suddenly you have to produce more analytics on the back of that. So there was a lot of back and forth. And I think one of the biggest benefits we are seeing is that the linear process has been removed, which means the data and the questions are available all in one place. So the process of onboarding data is just one step. And once that's done, that's it. Rest of it is just baked into the platform or part of the Databricks or the AI integration itself. So the biggest benefit we wanted out of this project and we are seeing is the dependency away from individuals who are performing a set function, but more towards decision makers. So usually what happens is the person who's making the decision is the desk analyst or someone who's acting for the PM, and they are analyzing the deal so they can iterate through analytics and the outputs a lot faster. So that's one benefit we are seeing. The other we are seeing is, obviously we're running this in parallel, is that the legacy software that we used to use, we don't need to use it anymore. So there will be cost saving in that space. We don't need dedicated people to perform this function. So everyone can do multiple things, which creates diversity in terms of the work that we're doing as a team. So that's very good. And then it connects more broadly to our ecosystem. We use AI agents sitting on top of our data in Databricks, within Databricks, and we have done integration with Claude front end into those models. And this will be no different, which means that we are able to cross-reference our data that already exists on the platform with the data that's being onboarded, and it creates one unified experience for our desk and portfolio managers and other people on the floor.
100% makes a lot of sense. Shehzad, do you think that AI at some point will be completely automating some of those flows, or we're definitely not yet there?
I think the way it all started with vibe coding, everyone thought that developers are obsolete until
Yeah.
they realized that they have to deploy code in production. I think right now what we are seeing is that AI is enhancing your capabilities in a significant way. Obviously, you need to have an aptitude to understand how AI works, how to develop, let's say, skills. And this is a fast moving space. So what exists now in 6 months will be very different. So I think it's less about replacement, but it's more of we can do more with less, right? So, where people have been struggling with time and they've been, if you look at in every role, whether it's software engineers or portfolio managers or traders, a lot of their time is spent in operational activities, which lead into the actual add value work they do, right? So I think these operational elements, if they can be removed or minimized, which is where AI comes in right now, I think that's where we're seeing benefits.
Definitely. I mean, the challenge, I think, for engineers never has been to write a few lines of code, but really understand what product to build, how to architect it, and solve those difficult problems, right? And I think the same applies to structured finance as well. And so, yeah, very, very exciting what's going to happen too. So thank you so much for talking us through this. So far, we've been doing a lot of talking and slides. Let's show some of this in practice. So what I would love to do a quick demo of is we'll start from this very first problem of tape cracking. I bring an actual tape that's messy, onboard it onto a clean layout, see how the agent and human kind of interacts cleaning, and the agent learns from that. We'll do a little bit of conversational analytics on top of that. We'll actually bring some unstructured data into the picture as well and see how the AI will deal with that. And then by the end of it, we'll just set up a surveillance workflow for all of this so that as new tapes and as new data arrives, we can just see all of those numbers updated and validated. So let's deep dive right into it. This is Prophecy. You can see that there is a chat interface on the very top. That's what we're going to be using to kind of kick off all of our work. There is a set of templates at the bottom, which are completely customizable, but there is a couple that we come out of the box with. Of course, there is one for tape cracking, Strats, peer comparison, and a couple of other things as well. So with that, I also have the actual tape. So let me share my full screen just so I can show it to everyone. Here is the actual tape. This is an example of a public tape, but nonetheless, there are some data quality issues here, quite a few different columns and hundreds of thousands of rows of raw data. So what we are going to do is we are just going to kick off the actual tape cracking process. I'm going to ask the agent to crack the tape, and I'll upload it right here. Perfect. And the process will now get started. Before the agent actually kicks in, of course, the data needs to be uploaded. We need to validate that the schema is right and the data looks correct. If it's an Excel spreadsheet, there is going to be a lot of different potentially sheets, so we'll need to pick the right one. In this case, out of the box, this works. So I see the schema, I see the data. This looks fine. And we need to select our data layout. right? What is the data layout? Well, that's that clean format that we want all of our tapes that are arriving to be in. Those formats are going to be very flexible, but there is a couple that Prophecy comes with for different asset types. This is a auto ABS example tape, so I'm going to start with an auto ABS tape. This data layout also contains information around data quality checks, some business metadata around each field, right? So all of this will help, obviously, AI produce the right results. And the second the data is uploaded, perfect. Now we can see that we are shifting to a slightly different view. We have AI chat on the left-hand side. We'll be able to leverage it to, ask questions about the columns, how are they defined, what values do they have, or maybe even modify the mapping itself. And we'll see it starts producing some first results for us just in a second. And on the right-hand side, we see the canvas, the data mapping itself. We have a lot of source columns right here and a lot of target columns. As the AI produces first mappings, we'll see that some of those columns will start being mapped to each other, literally, connected with edges. On the top, we have our progress. So far, AI hasn't done anything yet. It's still gathering all the context, so everything is unmapped. But we're going to start seeing some mappings show up as high confidence, and that's where we'll just be able to accept them, and some to be reviewed. As AI is progressing, of course, you can kind of inspect the full trace progress on the left-hand side. The first pass of AI is going to be a little bit more deterministic as well. So it already did it. There is a bunch of columns mapped, but some of those results, as it's still progressing, are going to keep improving. This whole process takes around up to 2 minutes, depending on the size of tape and data and whether AI is feeling good. So what do we have here so far? Well, I have this asset number, for instance, that's used by 3 different columns. Okay, fine. I can click on any one of them, see the actual data, transformation, AI explanation, and data quality results. Okay, sounds good. I can look at some of the other columns. I'll be able to see, and yeah, you can see some of them blinking a little bit. That's because AI is still working through all of this. Some of the columns are going to be potentially a little bit more complex. Let's find some fun ones. Loan age, for instance, why not? So loan age is created from original loan term and remaining term to maturity number. So in this case, our tape doesn't contain the actual loan age column. It needs to be computed. So we actually have an expression that verifies the values of the columns, and then it does basic arithmetic on top of that. We can see how that data changes right here, right? So original loan 72, remaining 5. Okay, loan age 67. Makes sense. And this is all, of course, in years. We can understand why AI did this in a particular way. In this case, it's very simple. So we have that English explanation as well. And we can look at the data quality results. Of course, passing as well. In this particular case, our data layout is just one table. But if you want to have a more complex data layout composed of maybe the actual loan table and then the repayment table or other tables, that of course is possible as well. And in that case, some of the mappings may look even more complex. As I'm talking, AI has finished the process. Perfect, 3 minutes. It's mostly done. We can see that there is a lot of mappings that AI was very confident about. And that's great. I trust also I've seen those mappings before, so I can just accept all of them. But there is 5 that AI was a little bit less confident about. This is potentially because this is a new kind of mapping that the AI hasn't seen before, or maybe the data profile doesn't resemble what it used to. Some of them are going to be still pretty good, like some of them are still medium confidence here, so I can just accept them and move on. But a few of them might require a little bit more fixing, right? And this is where I can modify the expression itself or ask AI directly. In this case, I got lucky. It looks like all of them are actually pretty good. So I'll just accept them. Perfect. And just like this, now we reviewed the whole tape, got a lot of good mappings, and we can look at our final output, right? This final output is going to be now of the data layout that I expect, and the final data processing happens right here. This might take a minute or so just to generate that final table. Perfect. And now we can see this is using all the right columns that I wanted it to use. Some value is missing, which is fine. My data layout expects it, that those are optional columns. But the information that I care about, like, this is a auto industry, right? So vehicle models, types, trims, etc. Everything is available. Perfect. Tape cracking done. What's next? Well, now that we have this clean foundation of data, I can now start doing the more interesting part, right? Which is probably the actually analyzing the data, doing strats and figuring out which subpool I want to actually invest in. Prophecy, again, as we mentioned, comes with a bunch of templates, but you can just start asking it questions and getting that visualization on the other side, or just download the tape itself or look at the table sitting within your data platform. I have already the strats loaded right here, so let's look at how those strats look like. Very similar interface. We'll have a chat on the left that I'll use to ask AI some questions, and we have the analysis on the right. Now AI has already processed our tape and not only did some basic column mapping, but extracted insights for me. So we can see what's the pool size, what's the yield profile, and we can see that in a structured table information as well. We have multiple charts here generated. This is again based on a template, so those are the exact charts that I expected to be populated. AI just added some insights. Credit score distribution, yeah, that's great. Original terms, APR, powertrain mix, right? This is very auto-specific. And then our geographic heat map, it looks like most of the activity is happening around East Coast, New York. If I want to start cutting this data further, I can just start asking AI questions directly, of course. And so as an example, let's see, what do I want to do? Let's say, let's cut FICO by less than 750 and show impact. AI can, of course, modify this analysis directly for us, but for now, I'll just ask it to answer me directly in the chat. And now AI will go in, re-examine that raw data set that it's been looking at, re-examine the clean data that we've created, all the analysis that was developed, and hopefully produce something very valuable for us. Again, every single step completely inspectable. Oh, wow, this is actually very fast. Perfect. So we can start seeing already the answer populating. This is our impact analysis of that cut. We can understand exactly what we are missing out on. So a lot less contracts, reduced balance, but it looks like it's a pretty good improvement overall in the credit performance if I do this cut, right? So it might be worth to explore this further. And I can just keep going and asking more questions and understanding how to better, slice and dice, perform strats on this pool itself. Perfect. So we were able to clean the data, onboard it, do analysis of it, perform some ad hoc data cuts. What's next? Well, this world doesn't entirely live on nicely structured data sets. There is a lot of unstructured data as well. Here is one such example where I'm actually onboarding a slightly different deal, which is already been purchased by someone. So there is a prospectus existing. I can see that prospectus right here. I can load that prospectus directly in Prophecy, and this time, just so we don't spend time on waiting for AI, I've already asked it to compare it to some other tapes that we've preloaded in our system. So now I can see that this, Toyota deal is, how is it comparing to other deals that we've been previously looking at? And it looks like from at least pure pool size, it's the largest one that we've ever looked at. It's a $2 billion pool, right? So AI can pull this information directly for us. Not only that, but as we are preparing our offering memorandums and prospectus, AI will be able to validate a lot of this information for us directly. So this is, there's quite a few files here, but this is one of the analyses that we've created. Yeah, perfect. This is one of the analyses that we've created, right? So not only kind of a baked-in, straightforward an analysis, but also a PDF file that now we can take in and share with some of our stakeholders. If we want to compare some of this data with our raw data layer as well, all of that very doable. Finally, now that all of that work is done, let's go ahead and set up a schedule for my tape, right? Let's make sure that we run surveillance on it on monthly basis as new tapes are coming in. And that's very straightforward in the product as well. One click of a button, I can choose what's the schedule of my newly arriving data. Maybe in this case, this is a monthly tape. So I'm just gonna do a monthly tape on the first of the month and save it. Right, that's all there is to it. Now your code is actually scheduled and it's gonna be reacting to the new tapes. Whenever it is seeing any data quality issues, you'll be of course informed about it, and you can use AI to potentially fix it as well. So that's it. Coming back to the slide, we've showed everything from bringing in that raw tape, cleaning it, or working a little bit more with unstructured data as well, and then finally performing end-to-end surveillance on top of all the workflows that we've developed ourselves. There's a couple of takeaways from this session. First, as you just saw in the demo, all of this works. So specialized Claude Code for structured finance can really work and satisfy that wish list and produce work reduction, change the dynamic in the team with some real numbers behind the scenes. If you want to try it out, the URL is right here, prophecy.ai structured-finance. Would love to have you try it out, set up a session to talk with us. Shehzad, did I miss anything else? Do you want to add anything to close on?
No, I think we covered it. I think the analysis that you showed is a very relevant outcome that impacts our workflow significantly. So it's a product that moves into the new era of AI and data science.
Awesome. Amazing. Thank you so much, Shehzad, for being here with us. Thanks everyone else for joining and listening to this.
Thank you.